Mick Diesel Rehab here. So we've got some hydraulic cylinders here that I've got to redo. They go on a lift truck that has a personnel basket. Now they have a different type of cylinder on there because it holds personnel. So you've heard some people call them counterbalancing cylinders, safety cylinders, load holding cylinders. So what they are is they'll have this block valve either integrated or it'll have a separate block valve that goes through with cartridges on it. So what that means is you have your input pressure from your hydraulic lines. If one of those lines were to break, this cylinder would just let all that fluid flow right back out of that broken hose or line. This safety valve, counterbalancing valve, load holding valve prevents fluid from coming back out of the cylinder from the way that it came. And that's what keeps them, if you have a hose fail, dropping a boom or tilting a basket over. So this is the type of cylinder that we're going to be working on. I've done some other cylinders, and there's many different ways hydraulic cylinders are made. This one's apart, this one's partly apart. This one gave me grief. As you can see, I had to heat this one up to get it off. Now, this particular cylinder, this head cap, is what we're going to call it. Then you've got your piston, and then your nut that holds your piston on this particular type. There's different ones on the JLG lift that I have, and we'll go over that later. And on the New Holland cylinder that I did, it didn't have a seal here. This one doesn't either, but that seal is, boom, it's right here on the inside. That seal right there. So that keeps the fluid from traveling from this side when it's pressured up to retract, or when it's pressured up to extend. So we got this off. This is what they call a basically a pin wrench that you can you put in these, line up in these pinholes, as you can see here, and then you can spin it out. Okay, so these adjustable pin wrench is what another word that they're called. You can put different size pins in it for different ones. Now on this particular one, it was so seized up that I had to put heat on it, because when I had these pins in there, it just started rolling and flaring this piece. So to get it out, I even put heat on it and everything. So I drilled them out and put a little bit bigger bolt in there to the next size up. I want to say it was a 1/4 21st, and I was shearing them. As you can see, I was still utilizing this one. I actually made a wrench out of 1/4 inch plate that would go around, and I could do that so that it would, I didn't want to damage this wrench. So I kept shearing those bolts, kept putting heat on it, and finally I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go up a size. So I drilled up to a 5/16 18 and tapped it. And then I put enough heat on here, and then finally it broke loose. Then I just ran them bolts. I took these pins out, ran these bolts in there, and then I just turned it. This one gave me grief. There's a lot of, this cylinder sits in an up position. I believe that over time water got in there, and it just started some corrosion and seized up the cylinder. When I put it back together, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this stuff here. In the marine industry, they call it aqua lube, but it's very water resistive. Water doesn't get it out. So I'm going to put this on those threads at the top, at the last bit of the threads, to keep water from coming in. So anyways, that's basically how it comes apart. You know, it's inside. I need to not put that in there, but and you can see it's got some scoring on there. So we're going to look inside the barrel and we're going to check it, but it would go in with a piston on there, and then it's going to go in, and then this actually seals in this taper here. And then there's your seals inside here, and then this is your head cap. And then there's a dust cap here, or wiper seal. These were pouring out right here. This rod has some chrome coming off, but it's in an area that's not highly used. And the customer was stating that they were okay with not repairing that now. And we can repair it, we can replace it. There's a video I'm going to put a link to from Farmcraft 101. He actually did a really good video where he did some repairs on some Cat D3 cylinders for his dozer blade. And we'll get into that. I'll let him get into that because he did a really good job on it. But that can be done. Customer anyways didn't want to do that. So let's go ahead and talk about the type of seals which are involved in hydraulics and hydraulic cylinders. Now I've got some seals here, and this one is a little different. And all cylinders are different. And so we're going to go over that. This being the piston, it's going to have a seal on the inside. We're going to go ahead and start pulling some of the seals out, and we'll talk about what kind they are. This one looks to be just a regular round cylinder seal in there. So that's just a round circular seal. So that would be shaped like this, just round. Since this one is not on a moving surface, it will actually push pressure in there and shape it to whichever side has pressure. And since it's not moving against another object, it does not need a backup, what they call a backup, right? And that's going to be this little small piece here that goes on an O-ring. So if this was a piston and it's moving inside the barrel, this being the barrel, there's a small space there. Some of these are U-shaped. This one is not. It's flat on both sides. Some are U-shaped to hold the shape of the O-ring. What happens is when you get high pressure in here, it's going to become a square shape. But if it's in a moving cylinder bore or barrel, and this piston is going up and down, as it starts to take shape, we're going to say that this one does not have any backup O-ring. So that O-ring will get pushed down in between that small space and damage that seal. Okay, so that's why they'll use a backup O-ring. Some of them will have one seal and a backup O-ring on both sides. That way it can function both ways. They'll have one on this side and one on that side. Some of them will have wear bands that go around them. And those would be something like this right here. This is a wear band. Some will be on the inside, and some will be on the outside of your piston. And these will typically take that wear so that you don't have a surface-to-surface wear on two hard metals. Here's another wear band right here. Typically, I replace them everything. Once I open a cylinder, I will replace 100% of the seals in it because I'm there and they come as a kit. These are two that I've just recently done. The seal kits for these aren't in yet, so we're just going to kind of take our time and go over the seals and what they do. They have little installation tools. I have some that are good for what you call U-cup seals. That's a U-cup, and that's an X seal, shaped like an X. This is an X seal right here. You see it, it's got a divot on all four sides, and if you cut a cross section, it's going to look like an X. That's an X seal. That allows it to be used both directions with pressure. I haven't actually seen that on any of the cylinders that I've taken apart. I've seen them in a lot of them. That being said, that covers the X seal. Now we'll go here. This is going to have an O-ring with a backup. So we'll go ahead and we're going to pull this one off. This is part of the head cap which seals your rod seal. So there's your internal seal right here. This one is actually compressed between the head cap and this bushing here, or spacer. So many different names that can be utilized in hydraulics. So obviously it looks like somebody been in these before. I could tell whenever I looked on here, I could see that it had been taken off and this had been hit before. That was not from me. Somebody else had hit it, taken it apart. And then we have the O-ring, like I said, with the backup. Okay. Again, as I explained, Sometimes they don't. This isn't moving, but it's a really good deal to have these backup rings on there, and that's to help it to keep it from pushing the gasket between the two surfaces. When you have good dimension between the two, as you can see between my fingernail there and that paper, probably you don't want that O-ring to get pushed. It'll just blow the O-ring out. So this keeps from blowing the O-ring out and wearing through. That just basically holds it up instead of going against the metal. Interesting, because you think, why not? It's got metal there. Well, sometimes it's just how they found over time that having that backup O-ring reduces the potential for that to happen. So that's why they're installed on them. Then you've got your internal compression seal here. This one, it almost kind of looks like it was installed backwards, but it's not. When we go to pull this out, you're going to see the way that it's shaped. If we can get it out, be careful not to hit any of the metal in there. So you can see that's a U shape. So that's the side that's to the pressure. Okay, now I'm just going to set this here, and just so you can imagine that if there's pressure going against it, it's going to take that cup and it's going to push it again, and it's going to force it to seal itself with the pressure being generated by the hydraulic fluid. So when it's that direction and pressure comes up against the back side of it, if pressure goes in between that surface, it's going to actually force it to seal by making that cup open up and push pressure against the sides. What happens over time is they just get worn, they leak. This one, as you can see, is just, it's just this time it started leaking, so we're going to replace it. So that's the other one. That's this type of seal here. If you were to cut a cross section, that's what it looks like. Okay. So that being said, that goes over that type of seal. I covered the wear bands. This one here is going to be an interesting type of seal. I don't know what kind it's going to be. So let's get in here and take a look, because like I said, there's so many different types, and this can be very interesting. We want to try to do this without causing damage to any of the metal surfaces. Sometimes you can just cut these things out. Some people do. Sometimes I do. Oh, this is a 2 type. This one's got 2 layers on it. This is going to be an interesting one. This is why a lot of times people will just cut them out, because they're not going to reuse it, and they fight you the whole way because they are tight, really tight. You can get them on, you can warm them up, and do all kinds of other different processes to get them so they'll expand over what you're trying to do. This little booger is being difficult for sure. Almost. There it is. Okay, so that's the outer part of the seal. This one looks to have a harder inner core. Let's see. Yep. Okay, it's just actually a little bit softer. So this is a 2-piece ring. There's no shape to this one, which is actually kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they send from the manufacturer. This is a Great Bend Industries, GBI, and I did get a hold of them directly to get the seal kits. And sometimes they're really expensive, and sometimes they're not. They're going to be sending me the seal kit, and again, we'll get it replaced. So here's one of the things we're looking at. So you're seeing all this scoring on here, and we're like, man, what is that? Well, some sort of metal must have gotten in this system. So let's take a look in here. Oh, my flashlight has gotten dull. Yep. Well, maybe we won't look in here. I kind of looked in here earlier, and it actually looked like there's no issues when I shined a light in here before. here before. Let's see what we get with a light in there. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Other than there's some dirt in there. We'll get that taken care of. There's some scoring that we can see, but nothing that's catching a nail, which is good. So it can be reused. There was no issue with the internal leakage in there. There's some right there you can see on that side. Again, you can still see the cross hatching, and it's just very light. There's no fingernail catching on it. So honestly, this was probably going to be really good. There's not going to be no issue. Again, like I said, there was no internal leakage. It wasn't bleeding down. It was just every time that they functioned it, it blew when the rod extended, and did that. Every time it extended, it was pouring fluid out. So that was the issue. This seal right here, which you can see, this one wasn't holding. The wiper seal is done. And again, it was the inner seal on here, which was this one. So why this one was leaking, I don't know, because it looks like it's in good shape, but you can see that it's brittle and pulling apart. So it probably was leaking internal, probably had something going through, broke down and was just pushing through. One was worse than the other, so we'll get into checking that out once we get further along. So that's kind of pretty much the basics of seals for this type of cylinder. And you know, I'm really new to this YouTube stuff. A lot of people have told me that I'm really good with a lot of this, and so I started doing it. And I figured that, you know what, I'll share my knowledge and do more extensive videos. I have some other videos I just started posting, and they're not really good explanatory videos. It's just videos of like things that I had done. I never really videoed the work because I didn't have a way to do so. I was videoing with my phone, and I bought some Meta glasses, and I like them other than they do 3-minute videos. I got the Gen 1. I need to look and see the Gen 2 supposedly has a longer battery life and longer videos. Anyways, I have ADD and I will get off topic so bad. But, so that's why I'm going to do this where I explain a little bit on how things work. And I hope you guys will grow with me on this. It's going to be interesting to see the growth for sure. One of the things I did notice that I missed is, so it's got this nut. Some are different. Some have bolts, some don't. But when I pulled this off, yeah, they had it this way. The previous people who had worked on it. Now, it's not to say that it's the wrong way, but sometimes when you look at bolts, they kind of tell you how they're supposed to be used, and this may be a defect, but typically you'll see that indentation right there, that indentation, and that indentation right there. Sometimes that means that that's the side that's going to be, they'll ding it, and so therefore it'll kind of help lock the nut from backing off, because when you push into this surface, it also pushes in on the threads. Personally, I don't know if that's the way this is supposed to be, but from my experience, you typically put that on the top side. You can see they put Loctite on this, blue Loctite, so it wasn't too hard to get off. But I don't know, it's just one of the little things that I noticed, that paid attention to detail when you're taking things apart and noticing how does it go together. So I didn't look at the other one and see how it was on there, but I did notice this one was that way. So yeah, pretty cool. Does have bushings on them, and other than that, it does have some scoring. I did talk to the customer about that, and it'll hold for now. they're at a point where they need the equipment back in service pretty quick. They don't have the time to wait for a full machining process and the money that it's going to cost for me to machine a new rod, machine this down and replace the rod. They're just not wanting to pay for that, which is fine. It'll work. It'll give them a couple years, maybe 5 or 10. Who knows? Sometimes you get surprised. So anyways, let's take a look at this one and see how they have this one on. Let's set this down here. Forgive my mess. I'm like, have a mess everywhere. See, this one's the same way, probably. You could see in the past that this was the side that was down. You could see how it had been torqued down, and you could see that evidence. So I'm going to say that the last people that put this together, and you can see where they did something there. And looks like they did it to get it off or get it on, I don't know. It's in 2 spots opposite of each other. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, that is definitely interesting to see. Anyway, so one thing I am going to do for this customer is when I'm going to repair this, I'm going to put this on the mill, and I'm going to re-drill the holes so that it can be tightened properly and removed properly the next time. It literally took like 4 hours of heating and manipulating to get this off. It's a lot of time, and we don't want that to happen the next time, and I don't want this to create an issue. So we're gonna clean this all up and get it all put back together with new seals. And so yeah, I'll video some of that. I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna use a wire wheel to clean these threads here and whatnot. So one thing I want to do is make sure that I keep the barrels with their matching components, because you don't want to mix them. So we're gonna set this there, and we'll do one at a time. And so we're gonna go ahead and we'll just be very careful. I should probably put some protective in there. Don't want to push anything further in there. I had that in there earlier. You don't want to get dirt and trash inside. I had that in there. I took it out so we could look in there. So I'm going to put this piece and this piece right here, and I want to cover so nothing goes inside that port. I do not want any metal or material getting inside that port to get into these cartridge valves. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start polishing this up. Started pulling it, but that's okay. Alright, so it seems like we're getting it it's nice and smooth now, so that's a good sign. We'll get that one smoothed out, and then this one right here, you can see this is, I don't know what the deal is there. That's probably part of the reason why it was messed up. Now this is probably not the best thing to do. We'll probably put it in a vise. I don't have a vise in here.
Battery 14%. Charge soon.
So let's see. Let's want to see this real quick. I've got a vise in my shop. That may be the reason right here why it was stuck. They were both kind of difficult. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. That might be part of, who knows? I mean, I didn't see anything inside of here and no way to get to that. But anyways, we'll clean this all up. I should do this in a vise, but I'm not. It's in my machine shop, and right now we're in the garage. The garage has air conditioning. Let me see if that does it. I'm gonna wear eye protection when we do this. I have them on, obviously. It's coming up pretty clean. But we're definitely gonna look into seeing what that is. That whatever that is, that might be part of the reason on the other one of why it was stiff. But as far as it goes, that looks pretty good. We'll just see if we get anything off of there. It looks like seawater got in that seal, that dust seal. So yeah, this is this part is ready to go. Other than we're gonna figure out what the deal is with this. That may be part of the seal. Maybe you put that in, take it out. It looks like you can see how it's kind of boogered down there. We'll check that and get that cleaned up more. And then but yeah, on the other one, I'm gonna drill the pins out and put it right, and then we'll figure out what the deal is with that. And I'll have to catch up back on that later. My glasses are getting down on power, so this will be the last bit of recording that I do, and then we'll catch back up. So I'll probably post this tonight. So Mick Diesel Rehab out. Okay, so I picked it out. It does look like it's some sort of piece of Teflon that you'll put in there, and it helps lock it. Pretty interesting. Yeah, so I'm assuming that that'll come. I'm hoping it'll come with the seal kit. But that's what it looks like it is. That's the retaining material. So that goes in there, and as you tighten it, it creates its own seal. But I still think that there was water being an issue. So we'll put some of that green grease, waterproof grease in there just on these. Again, I'm going to put it at these top threads all the way around so that it'll keep water from getting in, because this seal sits on the top of the cylinder, and that'll help it just keep it from getting water in there. Not a bad idea, especially if this is where the locking is. So, all right. Yeah, I guess we can try to get this out. I don't know. This is going to be a metal one. They're usually a little more difficult to get out. Yeah. And I'm not going to have the battery life to do that, fortunately. But yeah, you can see how this thing is just really just tearing apart. And just no bueno. No bueno. So sometimes you can manipulate these with a little bit of a screwdriver or something of the sort. Sometimes you can get at an angle like this and use a device like a chisel, but I don't know if we'll have one small enough, but we'll try. Nope, that's not gonna work. Not gonna work.